I'm excited to transition us into our panel discussion of the afternoon and the focus of our symposium today, advancing together through partnerships. We are joined by 4 leaders of fellow Los Angeles-based organizations who will be introduced shortly, as well as our moderator and AWA+D member, Katerina Buryonova, architect and host of the podcast From the Honeycomb. So let's welcome them all to the stage now.
Introducing everybody, but I just don't know pronunciations of names. Just do your names. Okay. Okay. All right. I guess, yes, everybody can be seated then. Sorry, I was told I wasn't introducing everybody. But this amazing panel of women I have had a chance to talk with and coordinate with over the last few weeks. And I am inspired by all of them because I'm just a newcomer, it feels like. And all 4 of these women are absolutely incredible. So I hope I don't butcher your names. I know I have a very hard name, so I'm Katerina Buryonova. I'm an architect and owner of my own firm and the host of From the Honeycomb podcast, which is a weekly podcast that it's been kind of just a creative process for me to meet other women. So it's not only based about architecture and design, but just meeting other like-minded women. And so we have Annette Wu, the president of the AIA LA chapter. We have Angela Ball, thank you, second vice president of the National Organization of Minority Architects for the Southern California chapter. We have Julie Arcelay, thank you, who's the president of the American Society of Interior Designers, the Los Angeles chapter. And we have Nola Talmadge, who is the director of the National Association of Minority Landscape Architects for LA.
Is this on? Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Nola Talmadge. I'm on the board of directors for the National Association of Minority Landscape Architects. We are a very young organization founded about 5 years ago by Stephen Chavez. He's a Chicano landscape architect here in Los Angeles. He was one of my instructors in my Los Angeles architecture program. And he through his experience growing up in LA and becoming a landscape architect, really saw that minorities were very underrepresented in the field. And there is a pretty stark statistic about that shown in this infographic about landscape architecture in academia and who is represented. So as someone that was a instructor in the field, and for someone like myself who was a student in the field, it was fairly obvious that there were not very many minorities. So he started the organization, asked me to be on the board, along with a number of other very interesting and diverse board members. The purpose of NAMLA is this. We are a 501c3 organization founded in LA in 2020, and our purpose is to increase minority representation at all levels of landscape architecture practice and academia, because we believe this will diversify and enrich how people experience and connect through landscape architecture. We are doing this by supporting and disseminating the knowledge, skills, abilities, and creativity of minorities while questioning the long-standing status quo that has limited people of color from having decision-making roles on how our landscapes are programmed, designed, and taught. So we're a very simple organization, and really the heart and soul of it has turned out to be our student chapters. We provide a student chapter guidebook, and we have primarily are understood and known through social media on Instagram, and that was one aspect of the organization that grew fairly quickly. And you can see through this map that we're just still growing. Student chapters are forming all over the country, and they all have their own personalities, quirks, and levels of engagement. So we, as the sort of national head, are there to support them in whatever efforts they want to pursue. And here's an example. Recently, LaBash was at UC Davis, and NAMLA was pretty well represented there by student chapter. So how we function and how we create revenue is primarily through job post listings on our Instagram site. So landscape architecture firms from all over the country pay a small fee to post on the website or on the Instagram feed, and that actually creates a decent amount of exposure, creates a way for, students and young professionals to look for jobs. That's pretty much our only revenue stream outside of a few sponsors that help us to do what is the core of our programming. The other, one of the early ventures for NAMLA has been to create a minority-owned firm directory. And so we just take every opportunity, like for instance, when we're tabling at ASLA or any of our engagement, to find out and to encourage minority-owned firms to register with us so that we can create this directory. There is no such thing. And one of the purposes of that was really to help encourage when RFPs are going out for large public space projects and we're hearing on a regular basis that they don't know how to find minority-owned landscape architecture firms. Well, we would hope this directory could be a way for that to change. One of the early ways that we were supporting minority landscape architects was through this micro grant program. We were using our sponsorships where our sponsors would maybe donate money or whatever we were able to raise through our job postings, and we come up with a micro grant question, and we receive really interesting answers. So ultimately, I think what we'd like to do is compile these answers into some sort of publication because it sort of helps to evolve the dialectic of minority voices in landscape architecture. For instance, this was one of the winning answers on micro grant question number 6. The answer was simply this: the space between us, learners, and our professors' choice of material is rarely questioned. It translates as a choice from our educators to maintain the traditional stories which a majority of the time unarguably encompass the white upper-class male point of view. Ironically, many of the students facing the professor are those from an oppressed racial class and or gender group. And I won't read through everything. For this year, for the first time, we gave out a minority business startup grant, $5,000. We had a little bit of extra fund in the bank, and so we decided as a board that that would be our first major award. It was a great process. We got some excellent submissions, and it did help us to learn more about the minority-owned landscape architecture firms in the area. Our winner this year was this woman who really just had kids, had been working for a firm, and wanted to break out on her own. She did this really beautiful work at the firm and had her first project as a business. It was just a great process to be involved with and to support. We've also done a portfolio competition for a few years. That's always excellent and helps us. We have a first, second, and third place winner. This was a portfolio competition winner last year. Beautiful, beautiful portfolio. And we have been engaged in a layer reimbursement program. So this is the licensure board, and it's an expensive process to engage in. And we've been, we've understood that licensure is very important for landscape architecture and practice, and it's a barrier for a lot of minorities for various reasons. So this is a real big focus for NAMLA as well. So that's us. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. And we're growing, and all of us as board members are very busy people, so this is very much a passion, part-time thing for us. And we're looking to work with other organizations and to expand in general. We're currently in the process of applying for our first grant with Humanities in Place that would provide more funding for all of these programs that I was just sharing with you, and possibly a little bit more infrastructure so that we can be more involved with the community of people such as AWA+D. So anyway, thanks very much for having me today.
Thank you. I'm Julie Arcelay. I am the president of the American Society of Interior Design, or as a lot of people like to refer to it as ASID. They'll ask us, what's ASID? ASID. So what I have on these first few slides is, this is one of the largest and longest running organization, aside from AIA, for designers. And it started in 1975, and it actually was a merger of two smaller organizations, the American Institute of Interior Design, AID, and also the National Society of Interior Design, NSID. So it's a very large foundation, as you'll see from these numbers here globally, or I should say North America. There's about 25,000 members, and that makes up just under 14,000 for interior designers. About half of that is student members, and then there's about 6,000 industry partners. While I am an interior designer, at the time that I took the vice president's position and now president, I was working for a manufacturer. So I came in as an industry partner, which was the very first time that the organization allowed a vendor or industry partner to hold a president position. So I'm sure there'll be a lot more to come. As you all know, a lot of organizations struggle, so they realized they needed to open their doors and be more inclusive and allow other people to hold those positions, knowing that we bring a lot to the table. And there's 350 chapters, so out of the 49 chapters in the US, 350 also include, of that, those are student chapters as well. So we have a number of students throughout the United States that join. And really, they have a strategic plan just like everyone else. And their focus is on design excellence, thought through leadership, advocacy, and community. Really reaching out to that community and looking outside their borders and where they can merge and work with other groups as well. So their whole core value, and they've really made some changes this year, is designing for a better tomorrow. And again, that's including everyone. In order to fall under that industry partner category, which, as you know, a lot of our vendors support the organizations and give them quite a bit of money. It was very expensive as an industry partner, as a major company, to join an organization. So they've changed their structure a little bit and made it a lot more economically friendly for not just the designer, but also the industry partner, and then again with the students. So they're really looking to expand that community, not be so cliquey as there used to be, and getting more involvement with that community as well. So locally, our chapter, the ASID Los Angeles chapter, is at the Pacific Design Center in West Hollywood. They've been there for quite a number of years. We are a board of 8. That number will change from time to time, including a student rep. So depending on which school we're pulling from, we'll have a student rep on the board. And what we're struggling with, I'm not going to point out all the goods, there's some bad, is core strong events, good attain of membership. Our chapter runs from the Manhattan Beach area all the way up to Paso Robles and then out to Bakersfield. When I joined this organization about 15 years ago, they never left West Hollywood. In a few weeks, we'll be going up to San Luis Obispo to hold an event up there. So where we can, we're going to partner with other organizations in our area that are struggling as well, that kind of fall in that same category. So up in San Luis Obispo, we'll be partnering with the Central Coast Interior Design Group up in San Luis Obispo, and then we'll also be partnering up in the fall with the National Kitchen and Bath Association. And then not forgetting our students. One thing that the chapter, so our small little group is about 800 members strong. And one thing I forgot to mention, because they just merged recently, they also merged with the Palm Springs chapter as well. So we also go down that way a little bit. But we're having a real struggle with students, and I know a lot of other organizations are as well. They don't like to come to events like this. They don't like to get out and mingle. They rather do everything socially. So trying to capture that as well. So that's what I have for you.
I'm Angela Ball. I'm currently the second vice president for the Southern California chapter of the National Organization of Minority Architects. This is just a little bit of history of it. It was founded by 12 African American architects at the AIA National Convention in 1971 to promote the quality and excellence of minority design professionals. It was recently discovered that there were 2 other members that were also at this meeting, one being of Hispanic origin as well. Harold Williams is one of the founding partners, is also from Los Angeles, and helped to kind of start our Southern California chapter in 1982 to kind of carry out the same objective throughout the Los Angeles area. Currently, our chapter has over 270 members. 50 of those are licensed architects. We also have allied professionals, faculty, and developing professionals, as well as student members from architecture schools in Southern California, all the way from San Luis Obispo to Riverside. So our mission and vision, we also worked with A3K Consulting, I think it was a couple of years ago now, to kind of work through our mission and vision similar to AWA+D. So our mission is to seek to advance and support the education and careers of those who have been historically underrepresented in the field of architecture and various allied design build professions. Our members include architects, designers, civil engineers, structural engineers, interior designers, urban planners, and product manufacturers. And these kind of are four main points: to promote the agendas of diversity, equity, and inclusion, to enhance connectivity among professionals, to support members of all levels of their career paths, to strengthen the ties between architects and industry colleagues, and to further the pipeline of future architects. So in 2024, our theme is advocacy. So we're continuing to advocate for a more diverse profession and the importance of BIPOC voices in the industry, schools, and community. Just a few of our board members. As you heard from Janice earlier today on the Leader Flow program, we actually have two graduates from that program on our board: Matthew Trotter, who will be the incoming president next year, as well as Eddie Gomez, a historian. He and Jarrett both reside in Orange County, and that's kind of one of our focuses, is to grow in Orange County as well. We do have a San Diego chapter in San Francisco, so Southern California kind of encompasses everything in between those right now. And just to touch nationally, we have over 3,500 members nationally, with the headquarters in Washington, D.C. These are just some of our chapter initiatives and committees that we have: membership, senior practitioners, developing professionals, students, project pipeline, the DEI challenge, and social events. It kind of encompasses all of those. And these are just a couple of images from our national conference that we had last year in Portland. So as I mentioned, we have over 270 members. We have 11 student chapters in Southern California listed there, and soon to be added is Pasadena City College. Our senior professionals, we just started a quarterly coffee talk to kind of discuss kind of what interests them. We have a lot of people ranging from single proprietors to people working in large firms, and just what are they looking for the future of NOMA. Also do a lot of networking with the younger professionals, and then we also started a professional conversation series in 2022, and so we're looking to bring that back later this year. We also have a robust developing professionals group that was started by Matthew Trotter when he was on the board previously. We now have a couple new directors for that, and I think Diana's still here over there. So she and Shamiki help to lead our developing professionals. They've had quite a few different events, such as we have ARE test prep sessions. We've had speed mentoring sessions. We also provide ARE test and study material reimbursement. We have networking. Career path exploration was our last event, which Annette was also speaking at. And then also social events. They did a hiking group tour last month, I think. And then, as I mentioned, we have 11 local student chapters. They all have their own boards. They host their own lecture series and events. We work together with them to host a resume and portfolio workshop that this year was held at NAC. We also provide mentorship for them. We have a student board member that coordinates firm tours around. So if you have your firm, you ever want to give a tour to the students, let us know. We also do a spring student showcase. So this year was held at El Camino College. And so students from all over Southern California can come and present their work to, and they can see what people are doing from the community college level all the way to the university level. And then they also have a student competition at the national conference. So they start kind of in the spring, and then they present their projects in October. There's usually over 40 schools participating. Last year, USC won 3rd place out of those 40 schools. And then project pipeline, which many of you may know, is kind of starting from the beginning. We have our annual summer camp in July that runs through August this year for 4 Saturdays for middle school through high school students at East Los Angeles College. It's a great opportunity to introduce architecture to those that might not learn about it in school. This year we have a focus on education. They're going to be designing their own middle school and high school. We do tours of schools. In Los Angeles, we're going to be going for a tour, I think, by a school, but your firm, Belvedere, and Jefferson High School. And then we also, for those that are more talented or high school students that are more interested in architecture, maybe considering it as a career, we also have an intensive boot camp that runs from February to June. They meet 1 to twice a month, online and in person. And then we also do outreach events at the Black College Expo, the Symposium, and also school visits just to introduce this program all around Los Angeles. So we're always looking for volunteers, so that call will be coming out in the next week or so. So if you're interested in coming out, let us know. We also introduced the DEI Challenge, as Janice mentioned, in 2020. So this was our initiative for architecture, engineering, construction, and related firms to voluntarily support the following measures to transform the diversity of their firms and the AEC community in a way that is holistic, firm-wide, and data-driven. And these are kind of the main initiatives: team building, staffing, training and support, and community, and kind of ways how firms can kind of connect and bring minorities and into their businesses, or helping to support them with training and support. This is just some of the diversity metrics that was reported from the 2021 challenge, and the challenge will be coming back next year. And let's just take a looking at some of our chapter events. Like top is kind of our conference and kind of more informal gatherings. We also partner with the AIA+Julie committee to host the Encompass conference, and that'll be coming this November. We have our general body meetings on the 4th Thursday of each month. And then we also have a national ski trip that this was the third annual ski trip we had in New Hampshire. Last year, our chapter hosted it at Lake Tahoe. So continuing to kind of meet people from all over the United States kind of with these national initiatives. And so kind of that's a little bit about SoCal NOMA. If you want to know any more, you can stay connected with us on the following platforms or reach out to us. So, thank you.
Okay, so hi everybody, I'm Annette Wu, and I am the 2024 AIA-LA Board President, and besides that, my day job is a principal at NAC, where my focus is on higher education. Oh, it has a fade. So I was first introduced to the American Institute of Architects about 25 years ago, and at the first firm I worked at, the 2 male principals got their FAIAs, and then they never promoted the value of the organization to the staff. They never hosted an event or sponsored an event, and I did end up writing it off as an old boys club. But then 10 years ago, the next firm I was with merged with NAC, and they offered us as a benefit a membership in the AIA. And I thought, okay, so this firm sees value in the organization. I should look into it. And when I did, I found an organization I didn't expect, really championing issues that were very timely and pressing for our time: climate change, equity, justice, and as well advancements in technology. And so my own journey and exploration began first with just using the organization as a way to expand knowledge, go to project tours. I then took advantage of opportunities in leadership by joining the Women in Architecture Committee, and as well further went on to be a board member as a treasurer. And today I am board president. Our Los Angeles chapter is 4,500 members strong and is the 3rd largest in the nation. I like to think that our board is representative of the diversity of our city. Here's our board at our kickoff this year. We have men and women of all different races, different stages in their career, from those just starting out to those who are very senior, as well representing sole practitioners, small firms, and large firms. In guiding this organization, I find myself so incredibly fortunate to have this strong group of all women in the executive committee, our secretary, our treasurer, past president, and vice president. You know, as I continued to sort of participate in the AIA, I really found that its strength was as an advocate for our profession. And I like to say that the advocacy is in 3 different buckets. It advances how we practice, how we deliver the work, and how our work brings value. And how this is done is through many of our flagship events that you may know. There's typically is like one every month. Some of those events include the 1.5 degrees C conference on climate change. This year they took a deep dive into the impacts of embodied carbon. Design for Dignity, exploring housing solutions, especially affordable housing for all. Encompass, as Angela mentioned, with a focus on inclusivity and diversity. Purposeful, which puts a highlight on healthcare design. And Powerful, which really puts a highlight on women's leadership, design, and is pushing for equity in the profession. And like Stephanie mentioned, Legislative Day is one of the highlights that we do to put our profession in touch with city leaders. And that's just a lot of priorities for the year. And those events continue, and meeting with leaders happen all year long. And Stephanie mentioned, one of the power that we can do in our profession is really moving things forward with code and policy changes that really help us bring solutions to the market faster and better solutions. And I think you even mentioned the landscape and site ordinance, which I happen to have on the slide. So I hope we had a lot of participants from landscape in that meeting as well. And so really how our programming works is through the workhorses that are our committees. AIA has 13 different committees. I like to say that because they're all organized around different focuses, there's something for everybody, everything from historic preservation to the emerging professionals to building practice. Let's see, oh yeah, this is where I'm going forward and backwards. Our sister organization is Architecture for Communities Los Angeles, and they are a 501c3. We created them so that they could go after grant funding and as well have the tax benefits. And we put all of the education and community outreach programs under the ACLA. They as well have 5 different committees. I'll go back. So, when I heard of the theme today, advancing through partnerships, it made me instantly think of our retreat at the beginning of the year with the board and all of our committees. And we were grappling with some of the issues people have talked about today. You know, it's the resources we have, the efforts it goes into planning, and with a total of 18 different committees, we were finding that committees were planning their program in silos, and oftentimes we'd have maybe up to 4 in 1 week, or even a couple on one day. And they were really drawing the audience away from all of the other events. So what we had was this day where we asked all of the committees to kind of explain to each other what their priorities were for the year, and to look and see how they could find synergies in planning events together. Another reason that we did this was because we will soon be moving in to our new headquarters together. The AIA, LA, and ACLA will be sharing the new Center for Communities. This is based in the West Adams neighborhood on West Adams and near 2 blocks from Crenshaw. And it's been a vision of the chapter for a long time, really to have a headquarters that was street level with windows that you could really draw people in with the events going on, get them excited about architecture and design. What's kind of funny here is that the building is actually a neoclassical style, which represents the old AIA symbol, if anybody remembers that one, and it's not the new modern symbol. So we kind of joke about that. We had a soft opening on May 2nd with our first event. That was the 2x8 student exhibition and scholarships, and this is kind of showing as the evening went on, kind of some of the promise of having events in the space. There's a mezzanine with additional meeting space on the second floor, and a large outdoor patio to kind of extend indoor-outdoor events. And so what I want to let everybody know about here as well is that our center will be open for rentals, and you can either rent the whole building or parts of it, from the Great Hall to the community courtyard. And for all of our partner organizations, there will be special rates. So that's maybe a way that we can kind of help out each other. And I started just to think this idea of partnering that we are asking our own committees to do. What could we do between our organizations to have events together and build on that synergy, maybe use some of the resources that the staff of the AIA can offer in having a space and promoting events and helping organize. Maybe with NOMA and the healthcare committee, we might want to have an event focused on highlighting the benefits of landscape in wellness and recuperative environments. Again, with the Committee on the Environment and NOMA, maybe there's something focused on projects that highlight drought-tolerant landscape and native planting. Another one I was thinking of was with the Committee on the Environment and ASID, maybe we're highlighting sustainable design in interiors. And this one recently, the Government Outreach Committee did have a meeting with one of our city planners, a woman of color, and I thought an interesting intersection would have been if we had planned this with NOMA. That would have been a great joint event. And as Angela mentioned, the one that we already do, I'd say, is amplifying what we're doing between our organizations. The JEDA committee and NOMA work on the Encompass conference together. So I just kind of wanted to offer some of those things as a starter to our conversation. How could we partner together?
Thank you, Annette, and thank you, everyone, for sharing about your organizations. And I would like to start the conversation today about what Janice brought up, about why. You know, we all have our reasons why we joined AWA+D, why we are here today, but I'd like to individually ask each of you, why are you part of the association and organization that you are a part of? What was your why? Because I know each of you have other commitments outside of the organizations, and so it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy to be a part of them. And so what is your why on why you are a part of the association? And we can start. Nola, would you be? Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I think, like I mentioned in the introduction, well, first of all, landscape architecture is like my third career in life. It's something I've come to after having children. I went back to school, was developing a career after I've had a lot of experience already. So that experience means that I've been out in the world as a minority woman, working, and often being the only one in the room. But coming to landscape architecture, it was stark, you know, in terms of minority representation, even for me and the experiences I already had. So, and such that I think part of the reason I was asked to be on the board is there's like nobody else to ask. I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but so it was an opportunity to help grow something and bring attention to something that really actually needs it. And again, I think I mentioned a little bit about the sort of there needs to be this development of a dialectic of minority landscape architecture. I was also a member of Blackland, which is Black Landscape Architecture Organization, and in that scenario, the first ASLA conference that I went to, and I went to the Blackland luncheon. It was literally in a room with 50 Black landscape architects that were sort of representative of the entirety of the country. It was such a small group, frankly. So I think that's the biggest why, is the need. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. And Julie?
So sometimes couple board meetings, I wondered why I agreed. I have sat on multiple boards. So I've sat on 3 different AIA boards throughout Southern California, and also the National Kitchen and Bath Association. When I was approached with ASID, it was coming out of the pandemic. They had lost a number of members, quite a bit of members, whether it was just financial or they just, they weren't doing anything for 2 years. No one was because of the pandemic. While I'm a manufacturer rep, or I was at the time, I can bring in a lot of money to the chapters. That's where I usually would join an AIA board. I can bring money into them just by sending out a couple of emails and saying, hey, can you sponsor this event? But really seeing a need for some change with ASID. They were very cliquey. They were very exclusive. They took all the money from the vendors and then used their competitors, so bringing a change to that. Whenever I sit on a board, I check what I do at the door, and I'm there for the members. And even more so as a manufacturer rep, I'm there for the other manufacturer reps, including my competitors. But where I can bring value to design, value to what our core members provide, whether it's design or a service, and be the best that I can be for them, for that chapter.
Okay, I guess mine kind of started back in the university. Before that, I guess I was brought up in a biracial household, so I've always been around many different cultures when I got to, but being in school, there was not a lot of people like me, very much more on less diverse communities and schools. So at the University of Minnesota, some of my fellow classmates and I formed a NOMA student group, and then from there, obviously, we get busy with architecture and things just kind of fall off. But so when I moved to California, I found SoCal NOMA again, and first kind of started volunteering with the summer camp. And I thought, well, maybe I'll get involved in a committee or board at some point and so forth. And then lo and behold, my cousin actually is the current president of SoCal NOMA, and he's like, do you want to be on the board? I have 2 board positions open. So I was like, okay, I guess I will. So I kind of volunteered into being on the board, but I'm glad I did because it just was able to expose me to more people, and it just being able to expose architecture to those that are underrepresented that may not have learned about it in school or and so forth.
So I guess my why is sort of in the path that I was describing to you. I felt like the organization really gave me a lot in expanding my education, opportunities to build leadership, practice speaking, and as well as what the organization is really doing for advocating on behalf of the profession in moving the needle in our advocacy for change in policy and code, as well as how we practice more equitably, diversely, and inclusively, and as how we're showing kind of bringing to students and the community the value of how design can impact for the positive way. So in all those things, I felt that I kind of wanted to give back to the community what I had received from the organization. So that was why I kind of accepted when they asked me to become a board member.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I loved hearing about all of your whys, and I know the next question I wanted to talk about is partnership and how we can strengthen each other while also strengthening ourselves. And a lot of that has to go with collaboration with other groups. And I know, Angela, it seems like you here have a lot of collaboration. You've worked with Janice, you work with Annette. Can you share with us how you've been able to connect and create these collaborations with different organizations?
A lot of it's probably come before I've been on the board, but I know we do have a member who sits on the JEDI committee for the AIA. Originally it was our president, and now we have someone else to kind of get involved with that and move forward. Leader Flow also came out of kind of SoCal NOMA and working with them prior to my time. So we've always kind of strived to kind of work with other organizations. I know we like to do a lot of partnering with them for our different events. We just had a mixer with AAAE in Orange County last week, so trying to reach out and be able to use our strengths together and meet people, network, and so forth. So trying to do that as we get to know these other organizations, because I know interior design organization and landscape, we always work together, but we don't kind of partner together with these organizations. So how can we now kind of use those strengths to kind of work together? So, I mean, we're all, most of us this is all volunteer positions, are working full-time jobs, so how can we kind of reduce all the work that we're doing too, so.
Thank you. And Annette, I'd like to share more about the partnerships you kind of proposed here, and how would you see those partnerships coming together and collaborating together?
Well, yeah, I think it's about being able to find out where the intersections are, you know, what each group's priorities are, and how through planning an event together they can build on the synergy and create a bigger audience, because that's what we were internally struggling with. So maybe there's a forum where everybody can meet, talk together, or I'd say AIA could host that at our new space. Bring different organizations together. We really strive to be a connector and find, with the meetings between the committees, the different groups, where you have shared intersections to create events and programming.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll have questions from everyone at the end. Thank you. And another question I wanted to talk about is connecting with students. That was one thing that came up in a lot of the discussions earlier that everybody had, is how do you connect with students? And I know, Nola, you have been able to connect with students really well, it seems like through social media. So can you share with us more about how you've been connecting with students, so that, you know, anyone who is struggling with how do you connect with the next generation?
I mean, yeah, social media. I think that, you know, so NAMLA came basically out of the pandemic, and we were all retreated and inside and focusing on our screens, and that's how we were communicating. And because, you know, one of the nice things about being new is that it's very fresh, it's very simple. So, you know, it's a very simple logo and graphic, and it has a simple, straightforward social media presence, regular posting, and that honestly has been what has attracted the student chapters, to very honestly. And it's broad, and I think too, it was seen as a need. And so there's a lot of flexibility on this for the student chapters to pursue their membership in whatever way they see fit. So like I said, some are more active than others, some are bigger than others. But I think that the heart and soul of NAMLA is the passion of the student chapters, frankly, yeah.
Anybody else have anything to share about students and how they connect with students? No? Oh, yeah.
I mentioned our Architecture for Communities Los Angeles sister organization, who they run the 2x8 student exhibition, and it was called 8 because originally that started with the 8 schools in Los Angeles, but it has expanded way beyond that now, and it encompasses the state with students from San Francisco, San Diego, community colleges as well. So that the committee that runs the 2x8 is kind of putting the word out all over the state, and throughout the exhibitions, the winners get the scholarships that are raised by that committee. As well, the group has the Design by Diversity Day, which this past year was held at ELAC, which brings together many groups in the A&E industry, not just architects. Many contractors participate, engineers as well, and it's a day where students of all levels, from the youngest to those that are already in community college programs, can come and meet and talk with these organizations directly and really understand what they do in the profession.
Thank you, thank you. And then Julie, I had a question for you. When it comes to partnership, you really show what partnership can do because you aren't an interior designer. You come in as a rep for manufacturers. So there's already that inner partnership of the industry. So how have you seen with your leadership, how has the organization changed? Because you kind of bring in a new perspective, a different side of the industry. Have you seen the organization change differently, pivot in any ways with your background?
They're slowly pivoting. We have the old guard that just won't let go. But I'll bring up other organizations and even just cities in general, like the AIA Santa Barbara. They're a small community. A lot of people don't go up there. So their 4 core events, they get a ton of people. And you have contractors, GCs, masonry, everybody's there and they're all working together. So bringing some of that insight, I think it's important to have someone outside of the design community on your board, whether it's a vendor, a lawyer, somebody, an instructor, because it brings new insight. You know, we get so stuck in the way we always do things and we forget to look where we need to go. I'm a big proponent of social media. When the last 2 manufacturing companies I worked for, every event I promoted through social media, and I had a ton of response from that. With COVID, I took everything virtually, and I had weekly classes online. This chapter is not big on social media. Just a few posts, they saw a huge difference. So really keeping your mind open. The first AIA chapter I walked into, there was a young architect there, and she turned around and she got so excited and she goes, "Yes, a young architect." And I said, "No, I'm not an architect. I'm just here to learn more about your organization." She goes, "Look around." And that chapter was only on their 4th president, and they had been around for quite a long time. So it's really good to see the change. It's important to have change on your boards and in your organization, and be inclusive, include everyone. We have no choice, and where we can, mingle and merge with other groups, because in the end, we all have the same focus. We all have the same problems, the same struggles, the same goals, and the same achievements. So why not work together rather than against each other?
Thank you. And then I had one final question before we open it up to the audience, and that is, speaking of change in the future, where do you see your organization going? I know we were talked about earlier, Janice brought up, the next 100 years, what does that look like for you? And so where do you see your role in the organization going to help it propel forward into the future and into the next 100 years? And Annette, I'll start with you, if you're ready.
I'll be past president. I hope we just, keep evolving so that we're always addressing and on top of the current issues. It just seems like there's so much now that we really need to solve, and from climate change to equity, diversity in the profession, that I hope we continue to evolve, as you saw that we did from over 100 years ago, the organization when it started in New York, to what it is today. I do feel like it is always looking towards the future and wants to evolve with the time. So I hope it keeps doing that.
I guess same as Annette, just growing, increasing the diversity in the profession is kind of the main thing. Obviously growing membership, but also keeping the familiar qualities of SoCal NOMA, and that's one of the main reasons that I came to it, just because it feels like a family. You're able to talk to everybody very easily within the organization, and you don't feel intimidated by, talking to CEOs of companies and so forth, even at the national conference. So even just keeping that not too large, but and growing the diversity in the profession.
So what we did this year is we're kind of revamping the chapter a little bit. And I've sat down with my next 2 presidents quarterly. Sometimes we just call each other, and making sure we're all kind of on the same path and being open-minded to where there's change, but also paying homage to the history of the organization and to our members and not forget that. but looking forward at where the future is going, making sure we're staying on trend and we're up to what they need, and then what our members need. Really, it's what service are you providing to your members? Organizations are changing. There was a point with NKBA where they really thought nationally that it was going to fold. And chapters had money in the bank, what we were going to do on our own if they folded. And that can really happen at any time. So being mindful of your members, because those are your neighbors. Those are who you work with. Those are who you do business with. And you can grow your businesses together at the same time. So just paying homage to the history, but be forward thinking on what we're doing and what's best for the organization and our members.
So for NAMLA, one of our key goals is to develop more statistics on minority landscape architects in the country. We just don't have enough information about who's out there and who's practicing, and as well to create a canon of minority landscape architecture. This is also something that we sort of loosely understand, through some resources, but is not really an excellent collection. And we believe that by presenting these statistics, we create an awareness that then sort of changes the overall narrative about minority landscape architecture. So that's a really big goal for NAMLA. Obviously, we want to grow our programs that we already have and try to fund them through grant funding and maybe some additional sponsorship, and to create a little bit more infrastructure. But those are the immediate goals. Yep.
Thank you. And we'll open it up to questions from the audience. I know we had one question there. We have a microphone. Oh. Thank you, Shannon. Sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael Dory, and I'm an AWA+D member. I have been an ASID student chapter president. I have been on the AWA+D board, and I've been on the SoCal NOMA board and helped reinvigorate the chapter. I say all of this to say, could you please get a combined calendar together? If you can just meet once a quarter and just say, this is what I have going on. I would say the last person who gets announces the date with some detail. Don't just tell me, save the date, because I'm like, yeah, for what? I need some details. So the more advanced notice you can provide, and the more you can stop stepping on each other, the better I believe your engagement will be. So please, I beg of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody on the panel want to comment back?
I kind of did. Since being asked to participate here and considering and reflecting on what we're talking about today, it occurred to me that it makes sense to possibly identify a board member as a partnership liaison. And if we all did that as organizations, we gave that responsibility to somebody, it would take care of exactly what you're talking about. I think certainly for us, things just happen as they happen, right? And we can assign each other different tasks, based on what everybody's good at or what everybody's available to do. But going back to my board, I think that's something that we'll suggest.
I wanted to add to that. I think that point is so right on target, because we all only have so many bandwidth. There are only so many things we can do after work and on the weekends, and maybe there's an AWA+D event I want to go to that's at the same time as another AIA event or a NOMA event. So I think it would be great if we could find a way that we aren't, we're working together and not drawing away from our audience.
I'll also say it will allow you potentially to see your partnerships, because you may be planning,
Similar.
type of a similar events, and if you kind of talked about it each quarter, you can see more opportunities for partnership.
And I think maybe having a shared Google Calendar amongst us all or something, so you know when everything is, because I'm also an AIA member, AWA+D member, and a NOMA member, but now that I'm on the board, it's just been all-consuming that I haven't had as much time to kind of participate in the other groups. So yeah, I know that's a tough thing. We were short board members for the last year or two, and now we finally have a full board this year, so we're trying to get more organized and get more events planned sooner, so kind of working together so that we don't have so many conflicts in the future would be great.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah, so AWA+D has a student membership price, pre-professional membership, and then professional membership, and it is the best deal in town. And so I am wondering if you've considered a tiered membership for your organization where someone who is who maybe doesn't have the mega budget of a Gensler and as a sole proprietor can join and be part of all of these wonderful organizations and attend the events without breaking the bank.
Great question. I definitely resonate with that because I'm a sole proprietor and there's only so many organizations you can join. So
yeah, we do have a student member rate in our organization. We also have an emerging developing professional rate from like 0 to 3 years. So also when you're originally graduate, you get your first year free as a member. So we do have kind of tiered rates, but then up to the professional level, each chapter throughout the U.S. is different, but I know ours is $350 is the max, so it's more than AWA+D, but a lot less than AIA, so somewhere in the middle. So we do have tiered ones, but yeah, working to find something maybe for those allied professionals too, because I think that rate is still around the same for architectural and
So ASID just made a big rollout at the beginning of the year, which a lot of the chapters weren't happy with. But coming from other organizations, I said, oh, well, they're doing exactly what the National Kitchen and Bath Association did. They brought down those tiers and brought down pricing, because what NKBA was finding out was even designers, but also vendors, they were coming in as the sole proprietor because no one really checked it. They paid the lowest fee, and they still had all those benefits. One thing I can suggest, as I said, ASID has lowered the price point a little bit by making it a little bit easier. Plus, those chapters get to keep that money rather than all the money going to national and then it getting divvied out. So it's a good opportunity for those chapters that really need the money to put a little money in the bank. In the past, and it's going to probably be a little bit harder because of the economy right now, but in the past, they've had major sponsors come in and pay for 2-year student membership. So reach out to some of your big firms or even vendor partners to see if that's something that's can be doable. Now is a good time to start getting on their agenda because they're going to start asking for money from corporate in the fall. So put together something where maybe you can ask them to pay for those students. And then with the another organization I was on, the board had enough money that we were able to pay for X amount of students to become members, or they would waive the, give them 2 free months if they joined in October, and they would let them come in at the lower price. So reach out where you can. We can't always reach out to national or for smaller groups. Be creative. Go after those that have some money and see if they'll support you in other ways as well.
thank you. That's a great answer. Anybody else comment on it?
Well, similar to NOMA, we have tiered rates for students, and the same, the first year after graduation there's no fee, as well as tiered rates for allied professionals. But that's a really great point. The discussion of having different rates for sole proprietors, very small firms versus large firms, I think that's something that we couldn't tackle at the national level, but maybe at the local level we could.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I want to thank Meg and the Symposium team for inviting you all today, because it's great to hear from you. I want to thank each and every one of you because you're amazing sponsors for your organizations. And I also want to encourage the AWA+D board to really seriously partner with each one of you and for you to think about what are the strengths that AWA+D can bring and offer to your organizations. Because I know that we've partnered in the past on Powerful, and I think that was a really great partnership. I think we could certainly benefit by a partnership with NOMA, and I hope that NOMA thinks that you can benefit from a partnership with us. And I don't know your organizations, ASID or I don't even know your initials. And I think that a partnership with AWA+D would really benefit all of us. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Go. Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. Elaine Beckerer with ASU. What I would share and offer is that I think I've been very active in AIA in Arizona. I live and work in Arizona, and I work in LA because I work for ASU. So I've been very active in AIA in Arizona as well as the Urban Land Institute. And what I have seen over the years is that design organizations, we tend to talk only to designers and to architects and engineers. And I think that we as a larger voice and entity, we miss opportunities to share with communities, with municipalities, with organizations that don't follow design and talk about design like we do. And so, you know, cutting my teeth in the architecture profession where when the economy is good, I was expected to work 60-hour weeks. And then when the economy was bad, I was, you know, laid off. And then my 30s came and went. And the organization wasn't advancing or talking to me about, you know what, you need to get up from your desk and we need to get you on a board. We need to get you to participate in neighborhood community meetings. We need to nominate you for awards, 40 under 40, fellowships, civic leaderships. I definitely don't see the AIA in Arizona finding a small cohort and promoting them in a very, very authentic and meaningful way as that next generation, but not just to designers, to the rest of the world and the community, because I do think that architects and designers should be at all levels within organizations. I used to work for a city, and I was the only person in the city of Tucson that had an architecture degree. So organizations need more of architects and designers. So that's what I would offer.
Thank you. Anybody like to comment on that?
I was going to say, I'm seeing a little bit more of that just being a manufacturer up that I go into these firms, but there's definitely need for a lot more. Clearly, the bigger cities, they're going to be doing a little bit more than some of the smaller cities, but looking from the outside in, I'm seeing a little bit. I think with COVID, yeah, a little bit, but I'm seeing a different change after coming out of the pandemic. So hopefully that little bit will go, you know, a little bit bigger. But everyone in the room, you know, if we all take this back home and see where we can integrate that into our everyday lives, our offices, our practices, our companies, you know, what it takes one person to make a change, and maybe one person in this room can do a little bit of that.
I'm going to just add to that. Our sister organization that I talked about, Architecture for Communities Los Angeles, that is really a goal to really help the communities understand the impact and positive change design can bring. And some of the things that they are doing are going into communities, especially like farmers markets and things, setting up booths and kind of explaining career paths and impacts of the design profession. So it is a goal, and it's just kind of beginning.
Yes, one question here.
This question is for Annette. Since your involvement with AIA, and you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, do you still see the organization as the old boys club, or that has changed your opinion about the organization?
I definitely think it's changed.
Okay.
not the whole board, but the executive committee is all women, 2 years in a row.
To that point, if you step up as a woman and join a board, you're going to continue to make that change. Like I said, the first AIA group I joined, there was 2 women on the board, and it was their 4th president in the 60-plus years that that chapter had been there. I was told it was an old white boys club. It was. But as we added more women, we made more change. And the men that were giving us a lot of push, it was opening their eyes to see what can be done. And unfortunately, it takes us women, sorry, men that are in the room. So join a board, join a committee, any way you can help. It helps your organization, but it helps strengthen in numbers as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to just piggyback on that to talk. I had a conversation earlier today about the subject of our symposium and working together, and the interdisciplinary opportunities that come with being, landscape architects, with engineers, and as women all coming together and sharing our knowledge, expertise, and contacts with each other. So in my work, when I've had the opportunity to, as a project manager, to work with a woman landscape architecture firm and a woman civil engineer and a woman construction manager, that's like been an incredible gift for me to have that experience. And so, and that really changes the nature of a project. That just brings, and the nature of the work itself. It has allowed me to learn more about the field of engineering because of the comfort of interacting with a woman that's been in the field for a long time and not being afraid to ask technical questions that I might otherwise feel like I need to, not say anything, right? So I'm rambling on a bit, but I do think that there's something very powerful in that interdisciplinary woman, power of project that can expand all of our organizations.
Thank you. And do we have time for one more question? One more. Julie? Virginia, Ginger. Sorry. Sorry, Julie. I saw you in my peripheral.
Maybe it is a good time just sort of for wrap up, but I think there's an opportunity sitting right in the room at this minute. And I speak as somebody who was simultaneously president of the LA AIA and on the board of AWA+D. And truly active, it ate me alive practically, but truly active in both. And right now, even within AWA+D and AWA Foundation, we have liaison between the two. I would think that it could come right out of today's session that there's somebody designated in each of these organizations, and within each, because you've got actually 2 organizations in the room here, otherwise too, that there's a commitment to make it a liaison committee and find ways to communicate. So like the shared schedule, you could have, it's so easy just to send texts and everything else. You could have almost here's a flash. These things are coming up, and I would think that would be valuable to each of these organizations, and you'd all be interconnected. We'd all be interconnected. Just a thought.
All right, well, thank you so much to the panelists and for taking the time to come here today, share about your organization. And I hope that if an organization did resonate with you, please reach out to the head of the organization, or I'm sure there's contact information in the in the brochure for today. But I hope you all enjoyed today's conversation and were inspired.